The first glimmer of dawn slipped through the cracks of the old wooden shutters, casting thin bars of gold across the stone floor of the cottage. For a long moment the world was quiet, so quiet that Arya could hear not only her own heartbeat, but the soft, uneven breathing of the two small creatures curled near the hearth. They weren't human. They weren't supposed to even exist anymore. Yet they slept like frightened children, tails wrapped protectively around themselves. Little dragons, barely the size of house cats. Arya watched them from the table, where she had kept vigil the entire night. As a herbalist living on the far edge of the Empire's border, she was used to strange creatures stumbling into her care, injured foxes, frostbitten travelers, wandering wolves. But never in her life had she imagined dragons, not after the Emperor's purge, not after the sky burned, not after the world declared dragons extinct, yet here they were, too small. Trembling bodies she had found collapsed near the ravine the previous evening. Their scales shimmered like wet copper under the rising sun, pulsing faintly with warmth. They were weak but alive. "Don't worry," she whispered, reaching out carefully. "You're safe here." The smaller dragon shifted, one eye cracking open in astonishing shade of deep sapphire. It stared at her, unblinking, unafraid now. As if it understood, Arya exhaled shakily. "I won't let anyone hurt you." But fate, she knew, rarely listened. By the time the sun breached the horizon completely, the sound reached her first metal, marching in precise formation, armor clanging like grinding teeth. The ground trembled beneath heavy boots. The Emperor's soldiers. Arya stiffened. Her hands moved on instinct, shuttering the windows, covering the dragons with a thick wool blanket. Her heart hammered in her ribs. How had they found out so quickly? The Empire's scouts must have sensed the creature's aura the moment they crossed the forest line. She'd been foolish to think she could hide them. Outside, the officer barked orders. "Surround the structure. No one enters or leaves until we confirm the presence of the beasts." Beasts. Arya flinched. The dragons whimpered beneath the blanket, soft, trembling sounds like tiny bells cracking. She knelt beside them. "Listen to me," she whispered urgently. "No matter what happens, stay quiet. They'll kill you if they know you're here." The larger one nudged her hand with surprising gentleness. Its scales were warm, too warm, feverish. They didn't have long without treatment. Thunderous knock shook the door. "Arya Vale of Rivenshade, by decree of his exalted Emperor, open your door for inspection." Arya stood slowly, breath tight in her throat. She wasn't a fighter. She didn't own a weapon beyond a kitchen knife. But she knew herbs, wildlife, survival. She knew how to lie, if only a little, to save lives. She cracked the door open. A captain in obsidian armor stared down at her, his face stern and scarred. Behind him, rows of soldiers pointed spears at the ground, as if preparing for an ambush. "Morning, Captain," she said, trying to sound casual. "You're far from the capital." He ignored the pleasantry. "Reports indicate dragon energy detected near your land. Step aside." Her blood ran cold. "Captain, I've seen nothing unusual." He pushed past her. Arya's jaw clenched as soldiers filed in, searching cupboards, overturning stools, tearing through her small home with brutal efficiency. Dust rose like trapped ghosts. Her few belongings scattered across the floor. The dragons stayed, silent. Thank the stars. But their warmth grew. She could feel it from across the room, pulsing like a heartbeat. Dragon aura was like heat on metal. Soldiers trained to detect it would notice soon. She needed a distraction. Arya stepped toward the hearth, forcing calm. "Captain, you know my reputation. I'm a healer, nothing more. If I had seen a dragon, I would have alerted the nearest outpost." The captain's eyes slid toward her, sharp, calculating. "Would you?" "Yes," she lied. His gaze lingered too long, as if he could peel her skull open and sift through her thoughts. At last he nodded to his men. "Check the cellar." Panic thundered through her chest. She didn't have a cellar, but she did have a trapdoor hidden beneath the rug where she kept her herbs cool. And under that trapdoor lay the warmest spot in the room, the dragon's hiding place. Arya moved quickly. "Captain, wait," but it was too late. A soldier dragged the rug aside. His hand hooked onto the metal ring of the trapdoor. This was it. Arya reached for a clay jar and hurled it at the floor. Near the doorway, a loud crack burst through the cottage, followed instantly by an explosion of red powder, smoke bomb herbs. The room filled with choking crimson mist. Soldiers stumbled back, coughing, blinded. The captain cursed, grabbing his blade. Arya dropped to her knees, groping beneath the blanket. "We have to run," she whispered. The dragons crawled into her arms. Trusting her completely, through the red haze she shoved open the back window, slinging the creatures into a satchel padded with wool. Smoke poured out behind her as she slipped into the trees. The forest swallowed her, but freedom was short-lived. A horn blared, sharp. Furious, the hunt had begun. Arya sprinted through the undergrowth, lungs burning, branches slicing her arms. Behind her, the Empire's finest trackers thundered through the woods, their disciplined footsteps growing nearer. "You must stay quiet," she whispered breathlessly to the satchel. "If they catch us," a soft, warm glow pulsed from inside. The dragons were trying to help her, but they were too young, too weak. "Not yet," she pleaded. "Save your strength." Her mind raced. The forest was vast, but soldiers had hounds. Armor enhanced with heat-sensing cores. They would detect anything warm, anything like dragon bodies. She needed cold. A place where heat signatures vanished. Then she remembered the frost veins, a network of underground ice caverns half a mile east. Arya veered sharply. The sounds behind her shifted. The soldiers were adjusting formation, closing in. They knew the land too. She ran faster. Branches whipped her face. Stones tore her feet. But she didn't stop, not until the ground dipped abruptly and a crack in the earth revealed the entrance to the ice caverns. She squeezed through the gap and cold enveloped her. Instantly, frost coated the cavern walls like powdered starlight. Breath froze in white clouds. The dragons inside the satchel whimpered at the sudden chill. "I know," she murmured, voice shaking. "And just a little longer." Outside, the soldiers halted. "She came this way." One shouted, "Heat trail disappears here." The captain's voice followed, colder than the air around her. "Then she is cornered. Spread out. Find another entrance. She will not escape." Arya pressed deeper into the cavern, legs trembling. She could already see light filtering through cracks in the ceiling. An exit, almost a rumble, echoed behind her. The captain had entered the cavern, sword drawn, eyes burning with purpose. "Arya Vale," he boomed. "Hand over the beasts. You know the penalty for treason." She tightened her grip on the satchel. Her voice came out soft but steady. "They're not beasts," she said. "They're children." For the first time, the captain faltered. "Just enough." The dragons pushed the satchel flap open. Their tiny heads emerged, glowing brighter than before. Magic surged through the air, humming like a rising storm. Arya shielded her eyes. A burst of brilliant light filled the cavern, warmth, energy, power. When the glow faded, the dragons hovered beside her, not weak, not trembling, but awake. Their wings spread wide, shimmering like molten sunrise. The captain stumbled back. Stunned. Arya whispered, "Run." The dragons lifted her with a rush of warm wind. Soaring toward the narrow opening in the cavern ceiling, they burst into the morning. Light free. And for the first time since the purge, the sky carried the beating wings of dragons once more. Behind them, the Empire roared in fury. Ahead of them, the world opened, and Arya realized she had just begun a war she had never intended to fight, but would never abandon. Not now. Not while they still needed her.